When people think about Demon Slayer, they often focus on characters like Tanjiro, Nezuko, Zenitsu, or Inosuke. But one character whose story is often overlooked is Kanao. At first glance, Kanao seems calm, quiet, and emotionless. She barely speaks, rarely shows expression, and often lets a coin decide her choices. Because of this, many fans assume she's simply shy or reserved. But the truth is much darker. Kanao's silence wasn't something she was born with. It was something that was forced upon her through years of suffering. Today, we're taking a deep dive into Kanao Tsuyuri's heartbreaking backstory, how she became the person we know today, and why her journey is one of the most emotional stories in Demon Slayer. Let's begin. Kanao was born into an extremely abusive household. Unlike many characters in Demon Slayer who lost their families to demons, Kanao's tragedy came from ordinary humans. Her parents treated her horribly from a very young age. She was constantly beaten, neglected, and abused. Every day was filled with pain and fear. As a child, Kanao learned that showing emotions only made things worse. If she cried, she was punished. If she spoke, she was punished. If she expressed fear, sadness, or anger, she was punished. Eventually, her mind developed a defense mechanism. Instead of fighting back, she simply stopped reacting. She buried her emotions so deeply that she became almost incapable of making decisions for herself. To survive, Kanao learned to obey. She learned to stay silent, and she learned to endure. As the abuse continued, Kanao slowly lost her sense of self. She stopped thinking about what she wanted. She stopped dreaming. She stopped hoping. Every day became about survival. Eventually, things became even worse. One day, Kanao was sold by her family. Yes, sold. Her parents treated her like an object rather than a child. For money, they handed her over to a man involved in human trafficking. Imagine being so unwanted that your own parents decide your life is worth less than a handful of coins. Kanao was taken away and forced to travel with the trafficker. Even then, she showed almost no emotion, not because she wasn't scared, but because she had already been broken emotionally. Her mind had learned that emotions only led to pain. As the trafficker dragged her through town, Kanao simply followed. She didn't resist. She didn't cry. She didn't ask for help. She had already accepted whatever fate awaited her, but fate had something else planned. One day, while the trafficker was leading Kanao through the streets, two women happened to cross paths with them. These women were Kanai Kocho and Shinobu Kocho, the flower Hashira and insect Hashira. Immediately, Kanai noticed something was wrong. She saw the bruises, she saw Kanao's frightened appearance, and she understood that the little girl was being abused. Kanai confronted the trafficker. The man demanded money. Without hesitation, Kanai paid him and freed Kanao. Just like that, Kanao's life changed forever. For the first time, someone had chosen to help her. For the first time, someone saw her as a human being, not a burden, not an object, not a tool, a person. Kanai and Shinobu brought Kanao back to the Butterfly Mansion. This would become Kanao's new home, but although she was physically safe, her emotional wounds remained. Years of abuse don't disappear overnight. Kanao still struggled to make decisions. She still struggled to express emotions. She still struggled to understand her own feelings. Kanai quickly realized this. Whenever someone asked Kanao what she wanted, she simply couldn't answer, not because she didn't care, but because she genuinely didn't know. For her entire life, nobody had ever allowed her to choose anything. She had never learned how. That's when Kanai came up with an idea. She gave Kanao a coin, a simple coin. Kanai told her that whenever she couldn't decide something, she should flip the coin. Heads for one choice, tails for the other. The coin became a substitute for Kanao's own judgment. It allowed her to function despite her emotional trauma, and while this may seem strange, it actually helped Kanao survive. For years, that coin became one of her most treasured possessions. As Kanao grew older, she trained alongside Shinobu and Kanae. Despite her quiet personality, she possessed incredible talent. In fact, Kanao was a prodigy. Her senses were extremely sharp, her reflexes were extraordinary, and her determination was unmatched. While many demon slayers struggled during training, Kanao progressed rapidly. She eventually became one of the strongest young swordswomen in the entire corps. However, her emotional barriers remained. Even as she grew stronger physically, she still struggled emotionally. She rarely smiled, rarely laughed, rarely expressed her thoughts. Many people misunderstood her because of this. Some assumed she was cold, others assumed she simply didn't care. But the truth was different. Deep down, Kanao cared more than people realized. She just didn't know how to show it. Then tragedy struck once again. Kanae Kocho was killed. Kanae, the woman who had saved Kanao's life, died after a battle against the Upper Moon Demon Doma. The loss devastated everyone at the Butterfly Mansion, especially Shinobu, and especially Kanao. But once again, Kanao struggled to express her grief. Inside, she was heartbroken, yet outwardly, she remained calm. This is one of the saddest aspects of Kanao's character. She felt emotions, very deeply, she simply couldn't express them normally. Kanae's death left a permanent scar on her heart. But it also gave her a new purpose. Kanao would continue moving forward. She would honor the woman who had saved her, and she would fight demons alongside Shinobu. Everything began to change when Tanjiro Kamado entered her life. Unlike most people, Tanjiro immediately sensed that something was unusual about Kanao. He noticed her habit of using the coin, he noticed her emotional struggles, and he wanted to help. One day, Tanjiro asked Kanao if she ever listened to her own heart. Kanao didn't know how to answer. She was so disconnected from her emotions that the question seemed impossible. That's when Tanjiro took her coin. He flipped it, and the coin landed on heads. Tanjiro smiled and told her that from now on, she should follow her heart whenever possible. It was a small moment, but it changed everything. For the first time, someone encouraged Kanao to trust herself, to trust her feelings, to make her own decisions. That simple conversation became a turning point in her life. Slowly, Kanao began reconnecting with her emotions. Slowly, she started becoming her own person. As the story continued, Kanao's growth became more noticeable. She started expressing concern for others. She began showing determination and passion, and she gradually developed feelings for Tanjiro, for someone who once struggled to feel anything at all. This was massive progress. Kanao wasn't becoming a different person. She was becoming the person she was always meant to be. The person hidden beneath years of trauma. The person Kanae believed she could become. During the final battles against Muzan and the Upper Moons, Kanao proved just how far she had come. She fought bravely, she made her own decisions, and she risked everything to protect humanity. One of her most important moments came during the battle against Doma, the same demon responsible for Kanae's death. Together with Shinobu and Inosuke, Kanao helped defeat him. This wasn't just another battle. It was personal. It was justice. It was the culmination of years of pain and loss, and Kanao faced it head-on, not because a coin told her to, but because she chose to. By the end of Demon Slayer, Kanao's journey comes full circle. The little girl who couldn't make decisions, the child who had been sold by her own family, the victim who lost the ability to express emotions, that girl no longer exists. Instead, we see someone strong, someone kind, someone capable of choosing her own future. Kanao's story isn't really about becoming stronger, it's about healing. It's about learning to live again after unimaginable trauma, and that's what makes her one of the most inspiring characters in Demon Slayer. Her greatest victory wasn't defeating demons, it was reclaiming herself, and in many ways, that's the most powerful battle of all. So the next time you see Kanao quietly standing in the background, remember everything she went through. Remember the abused child who lost her voice. Remember the girl who couldn't trust her own feelings. And remember the incredible journey that allowed her to finally smile again, because behind Kanao's silence lies one of the most heartbreaking and beautiful stories in all of Demon Slayer. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and let me know which Demon Slayer character's backstory you'd like to see explained next.